What do you do for a living?
I'm a sperm donor.
Okay.
So I found this guy, and he is a donor at FairFax Cryobank. What is up? My name is Laura, and I am your donor conceived person of the interwebs. I was not only able to locate his donor profile in under an hour, but I exposed this originally on other platforms in November. But before we get started, please like, subscribe, do all the things, tickle the little bell so you will be notified every single time I load up a new video on here. Because I am now a little refugee from TikTok seeking my new home on YouTube. So this guy was on Caleb Hammer's podcast, which is all things financial. Let's listen to the whole clip that Caleb posted.
How much do you make doing that?
It's $120 per donation, and I go twice a week. Sometimes they have bonuses where I made thousands in a month before, like I made 3,000 one month. And I just drive over, do the deed, and then leave.
So you're a jizz boy.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have a bunch of kids running around?
So when they turn 18, they can reach out to me if they want, and I had to sign something saying that. Until then, I have no idea. This is the crazy part. I've been doing it for 3 years. I've probably donated at least 200 to 250 times, and each donation can have about 5 kids. So that's probably 1,000 kids.
Why are we doing that? We're just to make money? You just like go to a room?
Yeah, pull up the magazine with the photos, whatever. Yeah, whatever.
Interesting.
This story went viral. It got millions of clips everywhere. There was even an article that was written about it. And this story initially came out in 2023. But let's break down all of the gold that he is saying. So he says he was being paid about $120 per sperm donation, which sounds within the correct range. I've heard of sperm donors in the United States getting paid from the major cryobanks anywhere from $50 per donation all the way up to $150.
This is the crazy part. I've been doing it for 3 years.
So donating for 3 years is completely within the realm of possibility. That is not abnormal in the least bit. We have spoken to donors who also donated for that same amount of time. Donors go in multiple times a week, once a week, for years. It all depends on what the cryobank wants because, hey, there is no regulation around this in the United States.
I've probably donated at least 200 to 250 times, and each donation can have about 5 kids.
Now, one massive misconception is that one sperm donation equates to one sellable vial that a recipient parent can purchase. That is not true. The cryobanks take that one singular sperm donation and split it up into multiple sellable vials depending on how fertile the donor is, how much they're able to donate. He claims that his donations were split up into about 5 sellable vials, which sounds completely kind of normal. I have personally spoken to sperm donors who have had their donations split up into 18 sellable vials. The highest number I was ever told was 22 sellable vials. I mean, that's impressive. I want to know what that guy had for breakfast. This is a fun fact that a lot of recipient parents and donors are just not well educated on, and it leads them to be very surprised when they find out how big that sibling pot is.
I've probably donated at least 200 to 250 times.
So he claims he donated 200 to 250 times over the course of those 3 years. So let's be conservative and say he only donated about 200 times. Now let's take 200 donations times 5 sellable vials, because that's how many times his donations were split up, and that equates to 1,000 sellable vials. That's a lot. Now I'm going to show you screenshots from FairFax's website from November 2024 because that was when I first exposed this story. But remember, I have updates.
How long have you been doing it?
All right, this is the crazy part. They can only have 25 kids from me, right?
So right off the bat, that is incorrect information. FairFax does not have a sibling limit. They have a family limit. Right here, it states a 25 family limit, meaning a donor is allowed to donate for 25 families. So the families are allowed to grow however they want. If they want 1 kid, 2 kid, 3 kids, that's fine, but only 25 families have access to those gametes. The fact that he thought it was a 25 sibling limit is concerning. FairFax should have not let him out of the cryobank without ensuring that he understood that. That is not something that we should have ever had a misunderstanding over. Now, this is the screenshot I took back in November 2024 when I initially posted the video that FairFax had on their website explaining how their family limits worked. Let's read. Specifically, a donor's sales will cease when 25 families, children from the same donor living in one home, have been reported in the U.S. International distribution stops when 15 families have been reported. After the family limits have been met, vials will only be distributed for sibling pregnancies. Okay, first thing, let's point out the word reported. What does that mean? So in the United States, we do not have a federal family limit that the cryobanks have to stay within. But they do, as you can see, have bank policies claiming that they do stay within their own family limit. But how do they do that? They require recipient parents to do the work for them. Recipient parents are told that once they have a live birth, they need to report that live birth to the cryobank so they know when to stop selling the vials of sperm. The problem is the cryobanks and the fertility industry know that 50 to 70% of recipient parents do not report the live birth. They know the system does not work. Recipient parents don't report the births for a lot of reasons. One, they forgot. They just had a baby. But also, two, a lot of recipient parents are nervous to report the birth because they don't want that kind of paperwork. They don't want a company knowing that, which I get in theory, but they have the paperwork proving that you bought a sperm vial. Like, it's cat's out of the bag. Just report the birth. But in many ways, this is just so evilly genius of all the cryobanks to do, because when a cryobank inevitably goes over their family limit, it's not their fault, it's the recipient parents' fault as to why they went over the family limit.
It's not our fault, everybody. The recipient parents were just not responsible.
They get to walk scot-free without being regulated because, hey, that would get in the way of capitalism. I don't know who approved of this wording, but they need to be sent to the principal's office. This is not clear, and this should be clear as a bell. I showed this to other donor-conceived advocates saying, what does this mean? Actually, how does their family limits work? And all of us had different answers. None of us were 100% sure as to what this meant. This is not 50 Shades of Grey. This needs to be black and white. Now, when I first read this, initially I thought, okay, they have a 25 family limit in the United States and a 15 family limit internationally. But looking at the word limits really started to confuse me. Why pluralize that word? Does that mean that they are going to hit the 15 family limit in multiple countries? Because FairFax does donate to 50 other countries. And then I found this little graph. International distribution will cease when 15 families have been reported, or when regulatory limits for the specific limit are met, often 5 to 10 families. So I'm freaking confused. So in November, I stated this. I know that potentially our donor may not have agreed or signed off to be sold in every single one of those countries. We don't even know if he agreed to be an international donor. Or maybe he disqualifies for certain countries. I want to be very clear. We're playing with theoretical math. We're playing off of the numbers that I am grabbing from your website. If I am wrong and incorrect, that is a sign that y'all need to be a lot more clear about how your cryobank works, because your language is very confusing. And this is something that no one should be confused about. Now, since I came forward with this, FairFax publicly updated their website, and this is now what they list. FairFax Cryobank limits sperm donor births by limiting the number of families, children from the same donor born to the same parents, that can be created by a donor. We consider a family to be created when a person or couple has a child using one of our donors. Once 25 individual families have been reported in the U.S., we stop distributing the donor's vials to new clients in the U.S. Once 15 families have been reported outside the U.S., we stop distributing the donor's vials to new clients outside the U.S. Okay, FairFax, this is significantly more clear. This is definitely an improvement upon your wording. Well done. They are stating that they do have a 25 family limit in the United States, and internationally it is a 15 family limit. So you have a 40 family limit? Are you serious? 40 families? So if all of those families have 2 kids, that's an 80 child sibling pod. What? I mean, thank you for your honesty, but that's very startling. Obviously, that ups the chances for accidental incest within our community, but also donor-conceived individuals who are part of very large sibling pods of that size have stated that being in those kind of sibling pods are incredibly traumatic and have actively told the fertility industry, you need to stop doing this. Stop treating us like a mass product. Now, the reaction I get is, well, what are the chances of accidental incest if the sperm, the gametes, are spread so evenly across the world? First off, people move, people go to different colleges in different states, in different countries, people go on vacation and hook up, and we have had cases of accidental incest, so we know that this is in the realm of possibility. And why would we gamble with this? Why would we gamble with this as a society? We just threw 80 kids out into the universe who have a significantly higher chance of accidental incest than I would say the average Joe would. We just threw 80 kids out into the globe who have a significantly higher chance of making the gene pool significantly more shallow. Why would we do that to them, and why would we do that to us? That hurts our genetic diversity as a society in general. That's bad for us. That's not thinking long term. Now, since I initially made that video, I've not seen a public response from FairFax. Obviously, they changed their website, but I've not seen anything on their Instagram. Maybe they posted a response somewhere on some forum. I'm not sure, but I've not personally seen anything. If they have made a public response, that's great. I'd love to see it. And of course, they've not gotten in touch with me, which doesn't shock me in the least bit. But hi, FairFax, how y'all doing there? I mean, I genuinely thought you would all be curious just to find out how quickly I found him. But apparently you just want to sweep this under the rug as quickly as possible. Now that we have hard numbers, hard facts, we can act more direct and honest and accurate questions. For example, FairFax, you claim to have a 40-family global limit. Okay, then why does one of your sperm donors think that he created 1,000 kids?
I've probably donated at least 200 to 250 times, and each donation can have about 5 kids. So that's probably 1,000 kids.
Why does he think that? The fact that he thinks that is concerning. Because as of November 2024, you are still selling his vials, which leads me to my next set of questions, the donor screening process. FairFax, you claim to only accept 1% of donors that apply. He's your 1%? Really? He's the 1%? Are you sure about that? So just to throw out some concerning figures, in the United States, no clinic, no cryobank has to verify any of the medical history that a donor hands in. It is all self-reported. So when a donor goes in to initially interview and they say, okay, what is your family medical history of cancer, of heart attacks, of mental illness? It's what they say. No one from the cryobank, no one from the clinic is calling up that donor's general practitioner and asking, okay, what has this person been diagnosed with? What medications are they on? The cryobank isn't calling up their mom to verify, okay, what's your family medical history of cancer? That's not happening. They're relying on the honesty of these donors to be accurate about a medical history that could severely impact your child's life, like literally life or death. Like, we've had donor-conceived people die, not get diagnosed correctly, not get diagnosed in time because of an inaccurate medical history. Now, from what I can tell, but I'm going to throw the term allegedly in case I am slightly off, this donor started donating in 2020 and was around 20 years old when he started donating. Recipient parents are literally putting their child's health, their safety, their wellness in the hands of 19, 20, and 21-year-olds. And please understand, this isn't just a FairFax thing. This is every single cryobank in the United States. This is how they all operate. But even beyond this, let's apply ASRM guidelines. If you don't know what ASRM is the American Society of Reproductive Medicine. ASRM basically creates the guidelines for the cryobanks to follow, not regulations, guidelines. So they're optional to follow. They are completely useless. Like, seriously, what a freaking fluff job. Now, listen to what our donor says here.
Why are we doing that? We're just to make money?
Money. I mean, it's an
That's
extra,
all?
like I said, extra 800 sometimes.
Okay, now here is an ASRM guideline. Payment to donors. Payment to donors varies from area to area, but should not be such that monetary incentive is the primary motivation for gamete donation. So right then and there, he shouldn't have qualified. But let's keep going. Here is another ASRM guideline. Under psychoeducational counseling, risk of losing anonymity, social media, and future implications for identification. Well, this was not communicated to this poor donor in the least bit. Again, I was able to track him down in under an hour. It was not hard. Now, obviously, this donor could be lying about specific details. He could be exaggerating, but everything he has said is absolutely well within the realm of possibility of what could happen. What he is saying is not foreign to what donors go through and what they do. And I really, really hope this calls in recipient parents to kind of have a wake up and realization moment as to what donors are actually like. He is what donors are like. Take a look at some of these donor recruitment ads. These are gross. These are gross. Do you think that these are going to attract somebody who has good intentions of donating? Do you think these are going to attract a good person? I'm sorry, but anybody ethical or well-meaning would look at this and literally run the other way. Who do you think this is going to attract? This is going to attract people with selfish intentions. So what does this story boil down to? One, we need to invest in a proper donor screening process. We need to really figure out a line of questioning that really can get to the heart as to why these donors are donating. I also personally don't think donors should be donating under the age of 25. We need donors who are a little bit more plugged in with a little bit more life experience, and also donors who have had experience medically advocating for themselves. But we need to ensure that we are picking donors who have good intentions that we can trust with such high-stake information. We need regulated counseling to ensure that all the donors are getting correct, accurate, and needed information so that they are properly educated and can understand what they are actually doing, and can take this seriously. And what a brilliant story to articulate why we need a federal and international family limit. Donor-conceived people are not playing cards, we are not collectibles, we are not an IKEA table. We are sentient human beings who have to live with the consequences of what the cryobanks are doing. Which leads me to my final thought. This donor's not the bad guy. He isn't. He is not the villain of this story. He is immature. He is not taking this seriously. And even though I sprained my eyeballs from all of the eye rolls that I did from the things that he has said, it's not his fault. This is the industry's fault. They are the ones in charge. They are the multi-billion-dollar industry. They are the ones who should answer for this. He should have never been picked as a donor or been educated so that he could properly understand what he was doing. And again, I really want to underline, this is not just me spotlighting FairFax. Every single cryobank in the United States does this. This is an overarching problem with the fertility industry in the United States. We just happen to catch one of these donors from FairFax. And that is it for today. Please like, subscribe if you like the video, like it, leave a comment, tell me your thoughts and opinions. If you want to see me perform stand-up live, here is my website. This lists all of my shows. If you also want to hear from other donor-conceived people, recipient parents, and other industry professionals, check out my podcast here so that you can hear other people's perspectives. Y'all are great. Love you bunches.